like you lost another one.
Welcome to another edition of Summer Showcase, everything ELF. I'm Michael Washington, and today I got Randy Schrader back with me once again, who hopefully will become a regular here on the broadcast. I would love to have him regularly, so it's completely up to him, though. Randy, how you doing, my man? And thank you for joining us again.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun last week, and I am looking forward to being a regular. Thank you for the invite and having me back. And I'm ready to talk some ELF.
Yeah. I mean, it was a crazy week. I mean, there was only was it 6 games this past week, so we knew it was going to be a more shorter slate with some of the games. We had an idea which games were going to be really good. I didn't end up doing Summer Showcase overtime the last week. The heat was pretty brutal last week, and it kind of just messed things up. So we ended up taking a break with it. So I didn't get any score predictions, unfortunately. But hopefully, maybe we can do some score predictions tonight, even though I got overtime going tomorrow. As well.
Yeah.
Bryce is not with us again tonight. Hopefully, we'll have him back here soon so we can discuss a little ELF as well. He can join this new 3-man panel, hopefully, here with Randy.
Let's do it. Come on, Bryce.
Come on, Bryce. Yeah. Come on, Bryce. Wake up.
Go,
I don't know
Bryce.
what you're doing. I don't even know if you're sleeping. I'm just saying. Wake up. Alrighty. First and foremost, let's first start. We won't spend a lot of time on the blowouts because there were games that we had a feeling that might be kind of lopsided just based upon the dynamic of what the league looks like. The Raiders T-Roll beat Helvetic Mercenaries 33-10. Just to get this one out of the way. This game, though, was much closer than what this score indicates, at least through the first, I want to say, 2 3/4, roughly. I mean, it was late in the third. This game was 16-10. So,
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, I don't think you can gloss over this game, right? Like, what do you take away from this game? It was kind of weird. It never felt like the Raiders weren't in control, but I think it was a lot closer game than a lot of people were expecting.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised to see this score at 16-10, and the only reason why I was saying that gloss over was because the fourth quarter went about the way that we expected it to. That was the game that we expected to see, and maybe the Raiders, eventually woke up because maybe they were just at a point where they just kind of took Helvetic for, granted, and Carlton Aiken and company were just like, no, you're not overlooking us. Like, we're gonna actually make a game out of this, and for almost 3/4 that they really did put together a very solid game plan and kind of contain this offense a little bit.
Yeah, they did. And I think maybe the Raiders coming off of a big emotional win against a conference rival like that last week, last second win, there might be some hangover from that. I think maybe we expected that a little bit, but I didn't expect it to be close going almost into the fourth quarter. That caught me by surprise. I do think what Perry brings to the offense, though, is a different dimension to the run game, and that's something that a lot of teams are going to have to figure out. The box score was pretty lopsided when you look at the rushing totals and average yards per play. I think that it'll be interesting to see how teams are going to want to defend them going forward.
Yeah, and one of the other things about this game too is that really struck out to me was the second half. It felt like Helvetic never really made the adjustments coming out of halftime, where the Raiders T-roll had some adjustments, but it looked like they were kind of like slow adjustments that kind of developed over time that eventually kind of shut this down because Helvetic was shut out in the second half, but this defense was. I think this defense is a little underrated. I just think if they can get the offense on the same page, Helvetic may be able to put together a couple wins here. I believe Ken Hike Jr. is one of the corners for this league, and he's been for this team, and he's been a really good corner for a long time in this league. So if they can find a way to get the players around him to just continue to rally, I think this defense might be able to keep them in games like this. Maybe not against the top tier teams like the Raiders all the time, but they might be able to pull off some wins here. I know they let 2 games against Barcelona slip that I'm sure they're probably upset about, but other than that, they could probably put together a couple wins here for this team.
Especially with how their special teams is playing. I mean, for them to have that punt return for a touchdown, hit a field goal early, special teams was the reason they were even in the game.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that game pretty much ended up the way that we expected it to, but it was not an easy trucking for T-Roll at all. I was actually a little bit worried about Nkosi Perry getting fired or released if they didn't make this game any more than 33-10. That's for sure.
We won't put it past the Raiders, right?
Right. It's the Raiders. You just never know. This does put the Raiders at 4-1 though, so it puts them in pretty good position as far as playoff position and then positioning is concerned inside their conference as well. We'll touch on that in a little bit as well. The other 2 games, the Sunday morning games, Vienna 42-3 over Prague, which we kind of felt like this. I believe Kyrie Lyles is out as quarterback of Prague, or he's hurt, one or the other. We haven't seen anything official yet, but there are some rumors they're making a quarterback change heading into next week. And then, the Warclaw Panthers beat Vieira 44-12, which Jack Mangill was back. So it was nice to see Jack Mangill back on the field, because I think this VRFR team is definitely much better offensively when he's there. No disrespect to Matei Hegedus by any means, but just Mangill is just a different quarterback in general. So any takeaways from either one of these games? They kind of went how we expected them to.
Well, I'll start with the Panthers. I think it was impressive to see them bounce back after a tough loss to Frankfurt last week, to travel to Hungary. And I mean, what was the score at the end of the first quarter? 21-0?
21-0, yeah.
21-0. So, I mean, just an absolute – they weren't messing around. It wasn't like watching the Raiders Mercenaries game. The Panthers knew that this was their week to get right, and hopefully they did that.
Yeah, and they have – oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, and I was just – yeah, sorry. I was going to touch on no, go ahead. I was going to touch on the Vienna game. So before I do that,
I was just gonna touch on the Panthers. It sounds like they're gonna have some roster moves that will be made official tomorrow as well. Looks like there might be another American wide receiver coming in, because I think Matt Cole might be possibly going to IR, which is frustrating because he's been hurt already. So it's unfortunate to see his season get derailed like that as well. But go ahead and touch on Vienna and Prague.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with you. That was exactly kind of how we thought. I think it was interesting to see, though, just like 2 weeks ago with the Milano-Stuttgart game, in the pass interference and how it kind of changed that game. I felt the same with this game. It was back. It wasn't back and forth, but Prague was in it. They were hanging around, and I think we all thought that Vienna was going to pull away eventually. But that offensive pass interference call on what was that, like that 80-yard touchdown, that you could just feel watching the broadcast, the momentum switch, and Prague never recovered. But again, I mean, I'm impressed by Vienna, and we can touch on, like you said, the conferences and playoff positioning later, but they've got to be one of the favorites right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just, the conference. I was looking at the standings earlier, and there's some things that stood out to me that I want to touch on, because, it's something that goes unstated. We're going to do a little MVP talk today for those of you out there listening as well, just because it's always a fun conversation, even though it's still really early. But let's go back to Saturday's, the first game, because this game actually kind of, I think, went better for Milano than I expected. They put up 27. I've been telling Zach, my co-host on Overtime, like, you're going to be having 2021. They had a defensive touchdown from Blair, Zach Blair. So they did offensively hit 20, and if the kicking was better, which again, this was I put the blame squarely on myself for the kicking all of a sudden sucking in the ELF.
Jinxed it.
Uh,
Jinxed it. Yep.
they probably would have put up 30 on offensively. They would probably would have had about 24 points or whatever. But uh, this game to me, I felt was might be a turning point for Milano in the sense of they're finally kind of getting rhythm. I don't know if the IFL season running into the EL season it does them any help because I feel like their top players don't get a chance to jump over to the ELF in time. And by the time they get over there, it's basically hitting the restart button every time, right? So, but this offense felt a little bit different. I know they were playing Barcelona, who has been struggling, uh, but it just for a team like Milano, who we've seen, be shut out. They're the only team that's been shut out yet, and has struggled offensively. It kind of felt like this might be a turning point for the season, hopefully for them.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but take a look at their upcoming schedule. And they play the Enthroners twice in 3 weeks. They
Hmm.
play the Mercenaries, and then you got to go play some tough games against the Ravens, the Surge, and the Raiders. And you got Barcelona again, but there is a real chance here that they go into that Munich game on a 4-game win streak, which would
Right.
be huge. And we've seen Munich play, and who knows how that game is going to go. So, like you said, they have a chance to kind of right the ship here a little bit. It will be interesting to see what they do in the next couple of weeks. But like you said, they looked rhythmic. Your guy Zach throwing how about that huge 80-yard touchdown pass? I mean, that was a great. They caught him and they caught a corner looking in the backfield in cover two. The safety kind of attached to that slot receiver, and he took a shot to the outside. It was a great read. It was a great throw. Um, and then just their guys making plays. How about Crawford coming up big?
Oh yeah, good old Jock Crawford coming in, and again, this was an interesting because it's an American running back, which after Patrick Carr got cut, a lot of people speculated that was going to be the last time we were going to see an American running back, and then Jock Crawford comes in, and I think the key thing that I'm seeing the difference in with this Milano team is the switch of the offensive coordinator position. The early in the season, it felt like they were trying to box Zach in for what his talent is, where this new offensive coordinator is basically allowing him to go out and play. Like go out, do your thing, and be able to create. And I've talked to Zach off air numerous times, and I've always told him like when I watch you play, when you're able to just be you and go out and do what you're able to do, the offense seems to flow more, you know, I guess just flow better, right? Like it's more of a like you said rhythmic atmosphere on that offensive side of the ball. So I feel like this offensive coordinator is allowing him to do that a little bit more, but staying inside the offense. And maybe sometimes it just takes a game like this, even though it's a team that you expect to beat. It sometimes that's all it takes, right? I mean, you play, you know what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great observation, Michael, because I thought Zach looked comfortable, but he
Mm,
looked he the plays where he and the offense were at their best was when he improvised, or on more of those designed quarterback runs where he's just trying, hey Zach, go make a play, and he did most of the time. So um, yeah, like you said, hats off to their offensive coordinator for letting him play. I think when you're game planning against their offense now, it's a
mm.
completely different offense. And you have to account for those off script, off schedule plays by Zach now.
Yeah, and I know that Zach's happy about getting some of the more top talent, that's coming in from the IFL. I know their season's winding down because I mean, let's be honest, it's tough when you have overlapping seasons in a country like that you're able to get that talent if they want to play in the IFL, which most of these people, most of these players, they want to do that because they don't do this on a full-time basis. So it gives them a chance and opportunity to double up or, whatever it may be on payday. So they're obviously going to take the opportunity. So, maybe we'll see something with Milano. I don't know if they're going to be able to make a push, like obviously to the playoffs. It's a very competitive top half of the league, but I can guarantee you that if Zach, was here and we told him that he had a chance to come into their bye week at 3-3, he'd be happy or ecstatic about that for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, right now, who wants to play them? And if they go on a 3-game win streak, who
Mm,
wants to play them? Who do you want to be Munich needing a win to go play Milano? I mean, I just it's and we saw how they hung with the Surge in the first half last week or in the first quarter. So
right.
they have the capability to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be key because you talked about Munich. We're going to go into the Stuttgart and Munich game because Munich had a lot of hype coming into the season, and we talked about it last week about how Munich is one of those teams that's like right on that fringe, and in order to get to that top, you got to be able to beat the top, and it was another letdown against another very solid team. I think it was week one against the Raiders T-Roll. They scored 5 points. This one they put up 22, but they gave up 38 on the defensive side when their defense was one of their bright spots early in the season. So uh, Munich definitely is going to be a team that is not going to want to be put on upset alert, and they may be put up an upset alert when they face Milano later in the year. So is this Ravens team ready? It just doesn't feel like they're ready, in my opinion. At seeing those two, the week one in this game here.
It feels like the exact opposite of Milano, where we're talking about them getting into a rhythm. Munich seems out of sync.
Yeah,
And it's hard to put your finger on it. Maybe the injuries, maybe just kind of the offense not clicking yet. Maybe it will take some time, but they're quickly running out of time,
right.
and that's it's I feel like if you want to compare it to the NFL, they kind of went into the season like the Dallas Cowboys do every year with a lot of hype, right? And you look on paper, you go, "Oh, this team's really good." I'm I know Sean Shelton over there, the sports director, played against him a lot, and he's a great guy. So I know he's put together a great team, and just for whatever reason, it does not seem to be clicking. So I don't know. What do you think it is?
Honestly, I look at this Ravens team. I watch the games, and you see flashes of what this team is capable of. Like, they took the first week loss, to heart and personally, and I felt like that would have been something that would have rolled over into Stuttgart because you're playing one of those top teams, right? Like the Raiders are there. We knew that they were going to be there. Stuttgart, we knew was going to be there, and I felt like that they were going to take that energy into this week, and they just came out flat. And Chad Jeffries to me is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in this league. He's barely ever talked about, and when you see these two games, you go, "Well, that's the reason why he's not talked about," right? Not saying that Chad Jeffries was the problem or anything, but when your offense is out of sync, everything goes back on the quarterback. You play quarterback, you know that you guys are the scapegoat, the reason, the you guys are the everything when it comes to how it's all looked at, and uh, it just I don't know. There's something not right there. I know that John Cole went on IR leading into the game, so it might be just that it was a timing issue with the new American receiver that came in, Malik Stanley. But Malik Stanley is so good at just being able to pick up where is needed. It really would surprise me that if that was just a timing thing between the two. But I don't know. It just looked like Stuttgart. I mean, Stuttgart's defense is legit too. So it could just be that that Stuttgart just threw him out of their game. It just never felt comfortable for the Ravens from the start of the game.
Yeah, and just watching the game, and we talk about getting into a rhythm. What stood out to me, if I were just in their coaching meetings, if I was a fly on the wall, I could guarantee you that they're talking about staying on schedule. And what I mean by that is they get behind the sticks so much, where they're in 2nd and 10 after an incomplete pass on first down or a 2-yard rush. They're in 2nd and 8. You want to be in that 2nd and 6, second and 4 range as much as possible. That's when you put yourself in a position to be successful. So for them, I'm thinking about how do I get the ball in my playmakers' hands early, early in drives, and get into more manageable third downs. Because for me, they're just setting Chad Jeffries up. When you're in 3rd and 8 plus as a quarterback,
Mm,
life is really tough. And and you kind of saw that. You saw that this past weekend. So they need to do something on the offensive side of the ball to get in rhythm, to be in those 2nd and 5s, and the rest of the game will take care of itself.
I think one of the other things Munich needs to do is really clean up their penalties. I feel like that they're constantly making pre-snap mistakes or mistakes, during plays that a team that is well coached shouldn't be making. It just like um, stupid penalties when you have a good gain, something along those lines, because they have one of the best running backs in the league too, and uh, Awayu, and it's or Awayo, and it's not coming together. Um, he'll bust off an 8-yard run, but get called for a holding penalty on a penalty that there was no need for. I think if they can clean up some of that might be the difference between, you know, losing by 16 and winning by 2, or you know, in that sense. So that is something definitely I would like to see from Munich moving forward, is just to kind of clean up those, um, dumb mistakes more than anything.
Yeah, and I think I'm just I don't know if I'm to the point yet of selling my Munich stock for the playoffs. Um, Perhaps not championship contenders as of right now, but you look ahead at their schedule, and there's a very realistic possibility they don't lose a game until the last week of the season when they play the Raiders. Nothing against any of their teams they're playing. I'm just talking about on paper. They
Right.
have a bye week, I believe, this week, and so they have a chance to get healthy, to get right. If you're Chad Jeffries and Malik Stanley, you're going out to the field every day and working on timing and rhythm and throwing and all that, but trying to get up to speed with the time that you lost. But I mean, they have a chance here to go beat Barcelona, to go beat the Mercenaries, Milano, Prague, Barcelona again, and then the Mercenaries. So we might be sitting here, in August talking about their latest 5-game win streak and how they need to beat Trio to be in the playoffs. So I'm not selling my stock yet, but man, it's tough to put them up there with the top teams in the league after they go uh, get get kind of blown out of the water by the surge.
Yeah, I think that's the discussion with the teams like the Ravens and the Panthers and Berlin, even at this point in time, is like they're just like on that fringe. Like you have your top tier, you have your tier one teams, and then there are those top teams in the tier two that are ready to make that next step. And uh, you know, the great thing about football is Munich just needs a chance. If they can get into the playoffs, they can get hot, and the next thing you know, they're there, right? Like it's just the way football is. It's not always the best team that wins. It's sometimes the hottest team, right? You saw it with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when Brady was there in his first year, right? They went in as like a 5 seed or a 6 seed, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So it's just a matter of whether or not that clicks for them, and if maybe they put together a 5, 6, 7, game win streak, that's what they need to just play hot all the way through. So we'll see
Yeah,
what happens. That T-roll game is definitely going to be interesting to see because of how personal they took week one.
and for the sake of the league, it would be cool to see that game. eh, for somehow those two teams be battling for playoff position in that game. But
Yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of season left to be played. But uh, the Ravens got to clean some things up, and with that staff and the roster they have, they should be able to do it.
And I don't want to go on a pro Ravens talk by any means, and discredits the Surge by the Surge, or Riley Hennessy. We'll talk about him a little bit later because one of our discussions, he's definitely going to be brought up. But this defense is legit. It might be the best defense in the league, or arguably the best defense in the league. And I don't want to take any credit away from the Surge at all by any means, because um, they made it to the championship game last year, and you just feel that this team is like, we're getting back there, damn it, and we're gonna, and we're gonna make noise this time.
Yeah, and we can jump into it later. So sorry to jump the gun here, but I always kind of look at it as I believe in this league. I think in the NFL, it's maybe 6 teams throughout the season. When you got a 32 team league, that you're like these guys have a legitimate chance at winning the Super Bowl. In the ELF, there's probably 4, and I would take the Surge number 1 right now. They've got to be favorites. I will think long and hard about uh, picking against them, which we did last week. That was dumb, and I apologize. But they are so good. They're just right now they're playing like the most complete team in the league.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the things that it just can't go unstated, right? It's just the Surge right now are, like you said, if they're not one, they are definitely two. But I honestly have a tough time, maybe Vienna, at one, but a team that we all expected to be at one, the Rhine Fire, had another tough game. I, Penalties, stupid mistakes. I mean, we talked about this with Munich. The Rhine Fire are creating all of these issues for themselves. They're playing behind the sticks on a consistent basis. Luckily for them, they're good enough. They were good enough to get out of this game, but it took a late touchdown to put them ahead of Berlin. Otherwise, Berlin would walk away with this victory. And uh, what is up with Rhine? It just feels off. Like, I know they won, so like we got to give them their flowers for that. But this game just it felt off for them, and I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah, I think it shows you how good Ryan Fire is. I mean, just to go in and play that game, I think there's two big takeaways from this game. One is that the Rhine Fire are still very good.
Oh
That
yes,
they were able to come back from the deficit that they were down and also play honestly one of the worst first quarters you can probably play.
oh yeah.
With
So
turnovers and penalties and still overcome that. I mean, that's just how talented they are. And then I think on the flip side, um, man, Berlin, you had two chances the last 2 weeks to put away arguably two of the top teams in the league and didn't. And also, you, the Berlin Thunder had the best start to the Vienna game that I may be seen, at least in the first half, and against the Rhine Fire, and they didn't put them away. So they've got to figure out a way to start to start fast and finish fast, because it's tough to watch. And I feel bad watching the games because everything's there. They just they got to start putting these games away. But my big takeaway from this game for Rhine Fire is it might sound weird, but I'm not concerned. Just with those coaches that they have, the players that they have. When Glenn Tunga is your running back, and then you have a former MVP at quarterback who maybe isn't in the MVP conversation yet, um, that just shows you how good they are. I think that they have a lot of time to get this thing right, and they're sitting pretty at 4-1, right? So they got plenty of time to right the ship, if you will. And with the coaching staff they have, I have no doubt they'll do it. At least they're winning these games, right? If they
right.
lose against Paris and lose against Berlin, it's a different conversation. But they're still winning these games. Um, it doesn't look pretty, but it's kind of like remember like the Patriots back in the day, and
Yeah,
they'd always go like 2-2 to start, and they had Tom Brady and the best coaching staff in the NFL, and it's just like they're just kind of treading water, experimenting on some things, coming off a championship win. Let's give them another 2-3 weeks to see who the Rhine Fire are this season.
yeah. It just feels you know different than normal for a normal Rhine Fire team in this sense. And my primary concerns could just comes from that Western Conference. Like Madrid is looking like a legit force, and Paris is playing very very well. Yeah, I know that Rhine. Um, I think Rhine beat them right. They already played one game right, and Rhine won if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Um,
last week they
it,
went into
it
Paris.
was last week. That's right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know that Ryan got the win there. It is good to see Ryan grinding this out. In this game against Berlin, I felt like that this was a coaching a coaching win, because coming out of the second half is really where you saw the game change, and Ryan kind of took that and ran with it, and I think that that's just the experience of Tom Sula in comparison to basically of just being there and have done it before, right? Like that's just the way that he is as a coach, and I just don't think Berlin had the experience on the other side to be able to match that, and that's where I feel like we saw that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened last week as well.
Yeah,
They're down 14 to nothing at half, or I believe it was 14. They're down 14 nothing at one point and come back and win, rattle off 19 points straight and shut out Paris. Um, Pretty much the same thing this game. It was
yep,
rinse and repeat for the Rhine Fire, but that will tell you um, second half adjustments and how you play in the second half is has a lot to do with coaching. And I just believe this is probably the best staff in Europe. So I don't think they're ever out of a game, and they still got to be, like I said, in my top four. Um, they're in my top four still.
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And I think Ryan definitely still belongs there, and I'm not taking them out of there by any means. Shout out to Athletes Forum. Thank you for watching here as well as we talk a little ELF. Before, he has another comment from Athletes Forum. He says Berlin got tight in play calling, I think, and you got to knock the fire out. You can't let them stick around. That is true. That's one of the most true statements you're ever going to make there by any means, because you can't let the fire. They're too good of a team. And you definitely, if you want to put that flame out, you have to be aggressive. And I agree. I don't think Berlin got aggressive in that second half enough to be able to put them away. We are going to actually take a very quick break so you can hear from our sponsor. On the flip side of that, we're going to discuss a little bit about the standings, some things I've kind of noticed, and I want to discuss obviously the early MVP run before we get into our prediction for what is it, week 6 we're heading into already? Week
Crazy.
6? That's nuts. Week 6. Man, here's a word from our sponsor.
This is Current. It's the card my parents used to pay me for mowing the lawn, running errands, and doing well in school.
Oh, wow.
This is the card I used when we got the idea to make our own clothes. And we spread the word, drove downtown, and sold everything we made. This is the card I use to do the things that really matter. This is Current. Visit current.com and download the app for free today.
Welcome back. I'm Michael Washington. He's Randy Schrader. Make sure you hit up Current, download the app, use it, hit our code up in there. Also, while you're at it, the Shady Sports Network, if you're on YouTube, hit that little like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the little dingy thing so you get the notifications every Tuesday night around 8, we'll say 8:15-ish now. We will be on talking ELF action. First and foremost, Randy, I wanted to say I was looking at the standings earlier. A couple things stuck out to me. First and foremost, I know that there's some teams who have played 5 games in comparison to some others who have only played 3. Majority of those teams that have only played 3 are in the Western Conference. Ryan, on the other hand, in the Western Conference has played 5. But the thing that stuck out to me was the Eastern Conference. It feels like Vienna's in control of this conference just based upon everything that we're seeing, right? It just feels like that conference is basically going to be run through Vienna. But the Berlin Thunder have 174 points. They lead the league in total points for, in comparison to the second place team at 165, which is the Raiders T-Roll, who had a 55-point output with Case, or 60-point output with Case and Martin. So that really stuck out to me as a shocker, because this team's 2-3, and it feels like this team should not be 2-3 scoring 174 points.
No, I think that the last couple games they just need to score some of those points in the second half, and they'll be good, right?
Right.
If it was only that simple. I do think strength of schedule has a little bit to play in there,
Of course.
obviously. But I mean, you are throwing the Vienna Vikings in there and the Rhine Fire. The Panthers defense also is nothing to laugh at. So, but I wonder how much of it is skewed by the enthroners in the Lions game. But
Of course.
every team kind of has those. So it is weird, right? It's weird. They don't lead that point margin by a little. They lead it by a lot,
Yeah.
like 10, 15%. So they gotta they gotta finish games. Like Athletes Forum was saying, they gotta not get tight in the second half and put teams away.
Yeah, that was just one of the things that stuck out to me the most, because like I knew Berlin had been putting up points, but I was just surprised to see a team with a losing record have 174, and it's not like their points against are, they're high, but it's not like it's super high. I mean, it's 121. Um, but when you take a look at some of the top teams, like Stuttgart 70, the Raiders T-roll is 70. You take a look at Madrid, it's 46. I know they've only played 3 games, but you take a look at Rhine, it's 92. So it's high amongst those top teams, and that may very well be why they're 2-3 instead of, on the winning side of things. So, is there something Berlin can do? Because when I look at this, I see 3 potential teams out of the West, right? That are, I mean, Madrid, Paris, and Rhine, all 3 of them could easily make the playoffs, right? Like, it's just the way that it looks. Stuttgart, the Raiders T-roll in the Central Conference, with Munich kind of knocking on that door. We talked about Munich's schedule moving forward and what it could look like. And then in the Eastern Conference, you say Vienna, you would have said the Warclaw Panthers at the beginning of the year, and who knows, they're getting into a little bit easier of their part of their schedule. So, is there something Berlin might be able to do, you think, just to be able to, maybe at least make a case to be there?
Yeah, I mean, when you have the former champion quarterback and MVP, MVP championship quarterback in starting, you always have a chance. So, I mean, I think Jacob Sullivan is playing really good football. When you look at their team, they have the recipe to win games. When you're building a team, at least if I was building a team, what I'd look at is how's our passing game and can we get after the passer? That's the 2 things that are the most important, because when you get up in these games, then that's when Kyle Kitchens and that defensive line can tee off on whoever's playing. So if you can stay ahead in the second half like they haven't been able to do, theoretically they should be able to put teams away. So yes, they have a chance. And you look at their schedule though, compared with the other teams that you rattled off, it's going to be tough sledding. You got to play Vienna again, and you got to play Paris, and you got to play Rhine. So we've seen them hang with these teams. So it's not that they can't win, but they also can't afford, at this point, they can't afford to lose any.
Yeah, that's going to be. I just find it interesting looking at the playoff race is shaping up and what we could possibly see, down the stretch. It just feels like there's going to be some really good teams on the outside looking in, and that to me though, the league should be very happy with as a whole,
Yes.
just because it's basically 3 teams in each conference that could make the playoffs, and you would not be surprised by it, right? Like, I know the Eastern Conference is a little bit shakier with Warclaw and Berlin, but both those teams I think are still really solid teams, and Warclaw is only a year removed from making the playoffs, right? So, yeah, it feels like it's just one of those things that I was looking at and happened to catch. So, just wanted your thoughts on that one. Is there anything else that sticks out to you as far as, I don't know if maybe you've seen the standings like at all in this situation, or?
I mean, for me, I look at those top 4 teams. For me, it's number 1, Stuttgart Surge.
Yeah.
Close number 2 is the Vienna Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 is Madrid, just because they have the head-to-head against the Rhine Fire. Number 4 is Rhine Fire.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, in my mind, it's who's battling for those last 2 playoff spots. Now, we're really early in the season, so Madrid to me is a team that we don't know. They've only played a couple games ever. So I want to see how they finish the season. I'm just talking about right now. But you're right. I mean, you have at the top, to me, there's a couple teams that could vie for that playoff position, and it's obviously the Raiders, it's the Ravens, it's Paris,
Mm-hmm.
and let's see if the Thunder or the Panthers can go on a run. Now, nothing against the Sea Devils, or the Galaxy or the Centurions. I just don't know if they have. I don't know. I don't know if they'll be able to. Just looking at their schedule as well, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough sledding for those teams.
Yeah, athletes forum mentioned the Ali Khalif experience. Apparently doesn't seem to be working out from a productivity or impact standpoint. And I got to tell you, that was probably one of the most surprising storylines for me is the lack of impact and productivity from that standpoint in his situation. I don't know how you feel about it, or if you have any thoughts on it, but it is surprising to me uh, from that standpoint.
Yeah, and I guess what were you expecting before the season?
Right. I was just expecting a bigger, I guess, impact on the overall game from a standpoint of being able to make plays, be able to put his name and staple on what we expect from, what we kind of expect from him or what we've seen from him in the past. It just doesn't appear to be there really at this point, I guess.
What would you I guess what would you do if you're the staff? Do you move on now or
It's so hard because like you want to be patient and try to you want to be patient as long as you can, you know, uh at least in my opinion, to be able to try to um see if he can get it together or see if it could find a way to be able to mesh well, and it just doesn't feel like it's there. So like how much longer of a leash can you really give him? You know what I mean? Like that's the biggest key, the biggest thing for me is like what's where's that limit for you?
and
It's gonna be
also
based on the coaching staff.
at what point is it kind of too late to make that decision in the season?
Right, right. That's the tricky part. Like you don't want to wait too long, but at the same time, you don't want to move on too quickly either. If you, I don't know, it's hard from a coaching standpoint. It's super difficult, right? Because when you're looking at it from any standpoint, you have to listen to your players, and if your players are saying, like to a degree, anyways, and if your players are saying like we're going to get there, we're going to get there, I feel it, like okay, like we'll give it to you, but at what point, like you said, can you do it? So, because we're going into week 6, at some point in time, like there's going to be an end of that rope if it doesn't get any better, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We've seen crazier things in this league, right? So
Yeah,
I hope that I don't know. I cheer for the guys too, so
yeah,
I want to see it work out for them.
yeah. Because it has been a very pass heavy attack, and that a lot of that's been because of a lack of what's been going on with Ali. So that's a great point from Athletes Forum for sure. Like the productivity's not there, so it's definitely a one-sided offense, and that very possibly could be leading to what Berlin's issue is and why they're 2-3 as well. Um, so yeah, we'll see what happens. And Athletes Forum also went on to say, you expected from the passing game, screen some snaps in the slot because he could be a matchup nightmare against linebackers. I completely agree with you. I think that he absolutely could be. It may be just a lack of creativity too. It may not even
Well, I
be,
think
you know.
it's what we were talking about a little bit with the Ravens. There is something to the flow of the game, right?
Yeah,
And getting the ball in your playmakers' hands. Are the Thunder doing a good job of that? I'm not sure. I feel like he could probably touch the ball a little bit more than he is.
yeah.
But you got to find a way, especially early in games, to get those guys involved. And I don't know. I would give it another week or two of trying to really press the issue and get the ball in his hands. Like Athletes Forum is saying, there's a lot that you can do.
Yeah.
You can get a movement pre-snap too, just things to create space and get the ball in his hands, even behind the line of scrimmage, obviously, but just to get the ball in his hands in space, have him go make plays because that's what
You
he's
know,
best.
yeah, and the other thing could be too is it could be a lack of creativity on the offensive side, and it could lead to the partially why they're to 2-3 as well, because um, it feels like this offense is very volume based, right? Like the 174 points is very volume through the air, right? It's not coming on like a dynamic run game like Ryan is with Glenn Tunga, right? Like Glenn Tunga's doing so much for the Ryan Fire that Jadrian Clark can get away with a mediocre game and they're still winning. It's the opposite for Berlin because they're not getting a mediocre game even from Ali Khalif. So, um, yeah, I'm not 100% sure. It could be just a lack of creativity from the coaching staff, and hopefully they can clean that up a little bit. But yeah, it just Berlin in the Panthers and Munich to me are on the outside looking in just because they're like right there. But until they actually get there, that's going to be part of the part of the issues for them to slide into that top 6 talk, for you top 4 talk, right? Like it's just
And not that this is anything that you want to do on a consistent basis, but when you're 2 and 3, you do is, man, get Jacob Sullivan involved in the ground game.
yeah.
That will help. They do that a little bit with some quarterback draw type of things, some quarterback draw, maybe a RPO, but I think they can do more of it. You don't want him taking a ton of shots, but at this point, it's do or die.
Yeah, and I think that is a little more surprising as to why Ali Khalif is having such a tough time finding room, because Sullivan is a threat to run, and usually that opens things up for a running back. But in this situation, it doesn't appear to be. So hopefully, maybe Berlin's offense will get it together here moving forward. All right. Speaking of Jacob Sullivan, I have been pounding the table about him being an MVP candidate, and I apparently have been correct, or other people have noticed that he should be in this talk. The European League of Football posted a graphic of 4 guys that they feel like should be in the MVP talk. Of those 4 guys, Glenn Tunga, obviously, of Ryan Fire, were on there. I believe it was, I don't remember who the 4th was off the top of my head.
AJ Wentland?
No, it wasn't AJ Wentland. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. AJ Wentland definitely was.
I saw him on some from the ELF, so I didn't know if that's what it was.
I don't remember who the other one was, but Riley Hennessy for Stuttgart and Jacob Sullivan, obviously were the other 3. Were the 3 that I remember off it. There was one guy, I can't remember who, for some reason, but those were the 3 biggest guys that came to me. And for me at this particular point in time, even though I've been patting the table for Sullivan, he's in the talk, which is where I believe he should be. But for me, it's Riley Hennessy at this point. I think that with the way he's playing with Stuttgart, the numbers that he has had, it feels right that he should be leading. Though it's hard, and it's very, very hard to take away what Glenn Tunga is doing with Ryan right now.
It is, because Glenn Tunga, if you're at least just watching the games, is the reason why they keep winning these games right now. Jadrian Clark will get it, I have no doubt, together, and he's a great guy. He can read the room, if that makes sense. Like if he knows he's got to throw the ball 20 times for 150 yards and get a win, that's what he's going to do. He's got to go out there and throw 4 touchdowns and complete 90% of his passes. He can do that too. But they haven't really needed him to do that so far this season. So I have no doubt that he'll get it together in the passing game. Plus, they've kind of had some changes in that receiving room. So I think as the passing game gels, it will open more up for Glenn Tunga. So you could see his numbers continue to skyrocket, but he is playing really good football right now. And in my opinion, he should be in the MVP conversation. But right now, I mean, if I had a vote, which I don't, but if I had a vote, it would be Riley Hennessy.
Hennessy, yeah.
I mean, you talk about somebody who is consistent. That's the word that comes to mind when I watch him play. He's never going to put you in a bad situation. He's consistent every game. You don't see him making a bunch of bad reads or bad throws. Just does what he needs to do. The ball's on time. It's accurate. And he's winning these games for them. Now, granted, they have a great team, but he's the one you can tell that kind of makes it all work.
Yeah, and Athletes Forum did say it was AJ Wentland, so my apologies. I was wrong. You were right. AJ Wentland was involved in that conversation as well. And to be honest with you, I think AJ Wentland deserves to be in that conversation with the way he's playing.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I think there's 2 guys,
crazy,
right? 2 guys. It's tough. I mean, it's just the nature of the game today, right? Is that defensive players don't get the love that they should.
Right.
AJ Wentland is playing out of his mind, and he does every year. So
Oh, yeah.
It's about time that he gets some recognition. but I think him and Kyle Kitchens have got to be 1A
Oh, yeah.
and 1B for Defensive Player of the Year. You talk about two guys that can just take over games as impact players on defense, and they just seem to be in the right place at the right time and have a knack for the football. When you're talking about the best defensive players in the league, that's what you need to be. And both of those guys are heck of great football players.
Oh yeah, they're hell of players, and AJ Wetland, and I think the thing that sticks out the most when it comes to AJ Wetland, Kyle Kitchens, Sullivan, Hennessy, and Glenn Tunga right now is their ability to take over a game. Right, like they're able to take it over at a point. I think Kitchens his numbers are a little bit more skewed because he is facing doubles and triple teams on a consistent basis, so it's harder to make to take over a game as easily as one of the other four were. So I think that's the reason why Kitchens may not be mentioned as much. But Zachary Blair, he's another guy that's kind of making an impact with Milano, keeping that defense, trying to keep that defense together. It's been hard for that Milano defense, but he's putting up some good numbers. I don't know if he's in the MVP talk like Whitland is, but he's a guy to keep an eye on that in that Defensive Player of the Year category as the season goes on. Is there anybody that's not listed or that you can think of? Like you mentioned, Jadrian will probably get it together. Is there anybody else outside of that that's healthy right now that you might see moving into this talk as the season goes on?
Stephen Duncan.
Stephen Duncan had been traded. Okay.
Yeah. If he would have played this week, he would have been a leading passer, which he wasn't. But he's only 200 yards, I believe, or so behind Jacob Sullivan. I could be wrong. Double check my fact check me there. But or Athletes Forum, go ahead and fact check me there. But I'm pretty sure that if he would have played this week, there's a good chance he's leading in passing. And if he takes Madrid to the playoffs, and especially one of those top 4 seeds, to me, he's right there in the conversation, especially with what he's had to go through this year with the team change.
Yeah.
Maybe some people see that as a detriment to the MVP talk, but it's way too early. It's way too early. He's played 1 game in Madrid, so I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's a guy that we're not talking about and should keep an eye on the rest of the season. It's Stephen Duncan.
Yeah, for me, it's Zach Edwards. I know I should probably go without saying, just because it's just one of those things where he is so talked about often. He's discussed often as far as how he is as a player. It just feels like that he's not really getting much love right now because they've only played 3 games and they did lose to Rhine. But it just feels like it's one of those situations where he very well could be in this talk by the end of the year as long as Paris continues. We have Bryce Lagow has joined us. Look at he woke up from his nap.
I did wake up from my nap.
He has decided to join us. Bryce, we were just talking. I don't know what you caught there or not, but we were just talking a little bit about the MVP talk. I know it seems like it's a little too early or whatever, but it's always fun to discuss it. And the 4 that the ELF posted on social media were Glenn Tunga, Riley Hennessy, Jacob Sullivan, and AJ Wentland. Who would your vote go to right now if you had one? It doesn't have to be out of these 4, but who would your vote go to?
Riley Hennessy.
Yeah.
1 touchdown, 0 interceptions so far. He'd have my vote for sure.
Yeah, I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Is there somebody outside of this conversation that you could see into this conversation as the season goes on? Randy, just so you know, said Stephen Duncan from Madrid. I said Zach Edwards. So I think we took 2 of those away from you already. So
I think those are both very fair. And unfortunately, I would also say Zach Edwards. So I don't have a unique answer for you.
Oh, well, way to be different, Bryce. Thank you so much.
I know.
Thank you for putting your staple on that. At least you could have said like Luke Zaraka or something.
Yeah, but then I'd be lying.
Randy, just so you know, to just fact check you right quick, Jacob Sullivan currently has 1,196 yards. Stephen Duncan is 4th in the league at 939, but he is also he's played what 4 games total, I think.
Right. So he's
Yeah,
250 yards behind the leader.
So he's 250 behind the leader. Chad Jeffries is sitting at 3rd, actually, at 957, and Riley Hennessy's at 1011 overall so far. And I can tell you right now, anybody want to take a guess as to who's the league leader is in completion percentage?
Ooh.
So,
Yes. Yeah. Jadrian Clark. No?
It is it is not Jadrian Clark. Actually, it is Riley Hennessy at 70% of his passes.
I thought it was a trick question, Michael. I thought it was a trick question.
I will tell you, however, though, the league leader would technically be, if he qualified, would be Kason Martin. Kason Martin had 73% of his completions in the one game that he played for the Raiders team role. So, yeah. Anyways, I also wanted to point out to you real quick as well. Sheldon Epler is at 702 yards. He's already in the top 10.
Crazy.
I just wanted to put that out there. His completion percentage is not as good as I think that he would have liked, but he's already over 700 yards.
2 games.
In 2 games.
And in really in 3 halves.
Yeah.
Really. It's I've been very high on Sheldon Epler. I've done work with him in the past. I've talked to him personally when obviously he played the LFA for the past few years, and he's a hell of a quarterback, and I'm very happy for him and the way he's performed so far.
Yeah, I think Vienna is very happy too. I think Vienna is definitely very happy with the way
For sure.
he performs as well. Athletes Forum, I do see your comment. We will get to that in a minute when we get to the Ryan game, because we are actually going to go ahead and let's start our predictions. Hey, Bryce, did you come prepared?
Yeah, I did.
You actually came prepared to write these down?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, look at this. You actually have it for scores and everything. Look at this. Okay, perfect.
Oh, we're doing scores. Oh, man.
We're going to do scores. Yes, Randy, we're going to do scores today because
right.
I didn't do it for OT last week. So this week we're going to do scores. We're going to put you on the spot. Bryce, just so you know, I also extended Randy to become a regular and become part of the panel for sure. So as well. Anyways, Bryce, actually, before we get into this real quick, do you have anything you want to add to anything that we discussed at all?
Well, I honestly, if you'll see my private chat, I thought you said 8:15 my time.
Oh. You're good.
Well, I joined exactly 8:15 my time, so I'm sorry about that. So I really did not even know you were on until I joined the StreamYard. But yeah,
Eastern, Bryce. I'm in Maine, Eastern time.
I got the tail end of what we're talking about.
Okay. Is there anything from this past weekend that you took away from it all, or is it just the typical same old stuff that we saw or expected, I should say?
In terms of the general play, no, but it's really just same old when it comes to the certain guys we were expecting to show up and perform. But I was really impressed, obviously, with the way Sheldon Epler performed, and I was really impressed with the way Riley Hennessy continued to dominate. It's really been quite fun to watch. I've been enjoying it.
And here comes Bryson with absolutely nothing else to add. That's awesome. So, no, I'm messing with you, Bryce. It's all right. I'm allowed to give you a little bit of crap for showing up late. That's all.
I know.
That's just how I feel. No. All right, let's get into it, guys. Let's start off with the first game on Saturday. A reeling Barcelona team who is definitely struggling, especially that offensive line. They are going into a hostile territory in T-roll where they take on the Raiders. Randy, let's start with you in this game because Barcelona's really struggled, especially from the offensive line standpoint. It's probably the weakest offensive line in the league. Levi Lewis has just had zero time to do anything. Should the Raiders be on upset alert here?
Give me the Raiders 33-10. Sorry, 33-14. I'll give Barcelona two scores here.
Oh, okay. Well, hey.
So no, I don't think they should be on upset alert. But I do think that they need to come out and play a better first half than they did against the Mercenaries, or it's gonna make me sweat on my prediction.
On your prediction, yeah. So your score there was 33-14.
33-14.
Okay, all right. Okay, 33-14. Well, let's run this out and see if you see how this goes. All right, Bryce, for you, my man.
I'm going to go 28-7. I'm not going to be as generous to Barcelona, giving them 2 scores. I'm going to give them 1 score.
28-7, you said?
Yes.
All right. I don't know. I'm going to write these down, I think. I don't know. I'm not very good with keeping track of this stuff, so. All right. You said this was the Dragons and who are they playing again? We just mentioned it. Look at this. Raiders is right. Raiders. I kept wanting to say Stuttgart, and I knew that wasn't right. All right. So Randy, 33-14. And Bryce, you said what?
28-7.
28-7? 28-7 for Bryce. All right. Yeah, Barcelona has been pretty dreadful across the board, and I don't know. I think Randy, you were a little generous with them scoring 2 touchdowns in this game. I don't know if it happens. I hope it does, just because I like seeing competitive games. But I think I'm going to say 6-41. The Raiders.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't expect it to be a close game at all. I hate it for the Dragons. I hate it for Levi Lewis, because we were high on Levi Lewis, going into the season. I just don't see it happening, though. All right, another key game. I swear the Panthers have the toughest early schedule out of anybody in this league. They're on the road and they travel to Vienna in another good Lord type game. Oh man, this is crazy. All right, Randy, what's your score prediction in this one, and a little bit of a preview?
Yeah, I actually see this being now the last game was, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm right here, but I see this being more of a defensive game, especially early. I could be completely wrong. Like you said, Bryce, I love Shelton Epler. He's a good friend of mine. So I expect them to win this game. And Shelton, please prove me wrong. But I just see it being a little bit of a kind of trading punches type of game early. And I see Vienna winning. Let's go 30-17.
30-17. All right, Randy. I think I got that for you there. Bryce, how about you, my man? And do you see this being a little bit of a defensive struggle, or?
I can definitely see that happening, but I also trust both teams to score points. So I'm going to go 31-24.
For Vienna?
Yes, for Vienna.
All right. I cannot, as much as I want to pick my Panthers, it's very hard to pick against Shelton Epler and this being a Vikings team. I will say that John Irve looked better last week, which was nice to see.
He did.
Hopefully they can get this offense figured out, but it sounds like there might be a change as an American wide receiver again. So that means another guy is coming in, because Matt Cole is either hurt or he is leaving the team. I'm not sure which it is. The Panthers have the firepower. The defense is going to keep them in this game, but I could see this being a 24-28 for the Vikings in this one. So that's the score I'm going to run with.
You guys have a lot closer than I do. You guys have games here.
Another really good game on the Saturday slate is the Rhine Fire traveling to Madrid to take on the Bravos, and I believe this is a rematch, is it not?
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, because Madrid was the one that handled Rhine their first loss, and I think that was in Rhine. So this is a chance for them to revenge. Is this a revenge game for you? Does Rhine put this one together and beat Madrid here?
If they go out and play like they have in the last couple games, they lose this game. That's for sure. Because if there's another team in the league that has a coaching staff that can be on par with the Rhine Fire, it's Madrid.
Yes.
They have some very, very good coaches there. So I expect this to be a very fun game to watch. Tough to go into Madrid. This is a tough game. Bryce, you go first. I don't.
I'm kind of in the same boat as Randy here. I also expect both teams to score points. These are both, high-powered offenses who can score, and I see this as a 38-32 win for Ryan.
For Ryan, okay.
Ryan.
38-32 for Ryan, for Bryce in this run. All right, Randy, come on.
I'm going to give it a little bit more of a defensive close game here. I'm going to go Rhine Fire wins 24-19.
24-19 for the Fire. Man, this is a tough game. Ryan definitely needs to put it together. I think Madrid's going to win this game. I think they're going to beat him twice. I think they're going to beat the Rhine Fire twice. I think Steven Duncan is found a home. I don't think he should have been cut by the Panthers. We discussed that, previously. This was something that I feel like he has a chip on his shoulder, and this is going to be a statement game for him to show that, even further that Warclaw made a mistake. It is going to be a close one, though. I think that this game is going to be 25-27.
Wow.
Madrid in that sense. I do want to also point out this. Athletes Forum did ask the question, thoughts on Dwayne Obi and if he has a big impact with a win versus the Fire this weekend. I will tell you that Dwayne Obi has become easily one of my favorite running backs in the league. And he's a big back who has great vision and might be one of the best in-between tackle runners in the game in this league.
I really like that about him, his ability to go north and south.
Yeah, I think Obi's ability could be a difference maker in this game. It may not be flashy in the stat line, like you're not going to see a Glenn Tuga-esque type stat line from him, but I think you could absolutely see something that could be enough to get that crucial first down when it matters the most on third down, or score that touchdown late to put them over the top. But that is a difference maker for me. So thank you, Athletes Forum, for that one as well. All right, Randy.
I think that's why, to touch on it real quick, I think that's why it's going to be a little more defensive game, just because I see the time of possession for both of these teams. They're going to hold on the ball. They both huddle. It's just, I don't think there's going to be that many plays. So I think it's going to be a little less high-powered scoring in this game.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I went with the 27-25 range. I feel like you might see a defensive touchdown. There might be a big special teams play, type of situation. So the Enthroners against the Seamen. This is a game that obviously we talked a little bit about Milano hitting their stretch now of possibly being able to come out of this early stretch being 3-3 heading into the break. Randy, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think Milan wins this one. I think they win it convincingly. Give me Milan 30-10.
Fairvars looked abysmal. I mean, come on. It's not going to be close, and I think it's going to be worse than what Randy has predicted, because I see Milan, hitting their stride as an offense recently, and I see this being a 50-burger. 50-0 is what I see happening.
Oh, wow. All right. We got a big prediction here from Bryce. That's a 50-burger shutout. Milan is
I legitimately see I'm gonna change it up. I'm going 56-0.
Oh, you're gonna add 6. Let's
6-0.
Let's just get larger. Okay.
Get larger. Pile it on, man, because it's not closer.
Yeah. Jack Mingle coming back was nice to see. Him and Robitaille need to get back on the same page. Week 1 it looked really good, but they have not been able to be there since Mangill got hurt. Last week it looked a little rough. I'm taking Milan in this one. I don't think it's going to be. I'm kind of like with Randy in the sense it's going to probably be like, you know, I'm going to say 28-12. I'm going to go with a little more of a traditional-esque type score. I just know that Zach is going to be extremely happy to be able to score 28 if that's the case. Athletes Forum says, "Love you, Zach. Sorry, going for the upset and Throners get the first win." So that's a
Wow.
yeah.
Wrong. That's just a wrong prediction.
Athletes Forum, I am marking that down. We will discuss it next week. And actually, Athletes Forum, if you stick around tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern time, we do have Zach on in overtime. So you're more than
Nice.
welcome to come back and have a discussion about this as well. I like how he led with "Love you, Zach," though. That's incredible. All right, heading into the Sunday slate. Let's go with Helvetic and Stuttgart. Oh boy, really? Do we have to spend a lot of time on this one?
Helvetic gets the upset here and win. No, just kidding.
Oh wow, I was about ready just to kick you out of the show just for.
It's more
Athletes Forum, you got an upset here too. If you
I don't know.
called this one right, I'd be very impressed.
He put the laughing emojis for you as far as you said it, so maybe he does. Who knows?
That would be a meme. You guys follow the memes of ELF thing?
Yes.
He goes, "This is where I leave."
Oh man, yeah. Give me Stuttgart. If there's a 50 burger this week, I think it's this game.
Really?
I don't know if it's gonna get to that point. Give me the Surge 41 and Helvetic 13.
13-41. All right, Randy, got you there. All right, Bryce, what about for you, man?
I think it's going to be in the similar vein as that kind of score line. Give me 38-6.
38-6. I'm assuming you mean Stuttgart because I don't think you're picking Helvetic in this one.
No, of course, yeah, Helvetic, yeah.
I am telling you that this is not going to be pretty at all, and I think it's going to be a 60 burger. I think it's going to be 63-3, Stuttgart. Riley Hennessy's playing lights out. This defense is insane. Athletes Forum says Helvetic covers plus 37. I don't think they got clever. I think I'm still taking Stuttgart, 37-point spread. I know it's a crazy stat line in football, but
are there lines? Are there lines for the ELF games, and where are they?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. Because
I've looked for this.
There are lines. I'll show you after the show. I know where they are.
Okay, because I was saying, I need to be able to bet. I need to be able to bet on these games.
That's a whole nother show. That's a show I could get behind too.
Nice.
I'm a degenerate.
Nice. I'm a degenerate. Look, Randy's all excited now. Is there lines? All right. The Cologne Centaurans travel to Paris to take on the Musketeers. Randy, what's the thought on this one?
I could see this one actually being a good game. However, you got Paris now, Cologne too. I don't know. Coming off of a bye is tough. I can see this. This is a tough one. My gut says Paris, and if Paris wants to be in the playoff race, obviously they got to beat Cologne. So give me Paris. Give me a high scoring game here. Give me 34 to 20. Paris winning.
Nice. Okay, that's a nice little score there. How about you, Bryce? Is he the same way?
I like Cologne winning this game. And if they're going to win this game, they're going to have to shut down Paris's offense. So I see it being a 19-16 type scoreline.
And you're going with the Centaurans on the upset?
Yes.
All right. I think Cologne's defense is really good. I think it's one of the more underrated units in the league. Isaiah Weed has played much better than I expected him to. I did not know what to expect from him heading into the season. However,
in this league so far.
yes, he's been a pleasant surprise, that's for sure. Yeah. However, it's Zach Edwards in Paris, and I think that they find a way to. I think they find a way to win this game, and I'm going to say 34-18 for Paris. It may be close for 2.5 quarters, 3 quarters, which we've seen already. But I think Paris opens it up in the second half, and Zach Edwards has a superb game. All right. Thunder versus the Lightning. Yeah. Thunder versus the Lions. Randy, actually, first and foremost, you said you're from the Michigan area. Is that what you said? Or you have family in the Michigan area?
Yeah, I was born in the Detroit area. Yeah.
Are you a Detroit fan? Please tell me you're a
Yeah.
Detroit fan. Please say yes.
I cheer for them. I live in Charlotte now. I'm a Panthers fan. I have season tickets. Been going to the
Okay.
games since I was
All
a
right.
kid. So I'm a
All
Panthers fan. But if the Lions are on, I'm cheering for them. Is that good enough?
Yeah, well, I'll take it. I mean, I'm not a Lions fan. I'm a Commanders fan, but I'm the same way. I cheer for the Lions when they're on. I really like what they have going
He's the
on.
real scum here in this video.
This is coming from a guy who's an actual Cowboys fan. Like,
At least I'm not a
yeah,
Cowboys fan. All right, that's what I'm thinking of.
he's a Cowboys fan. Let's just talk about that right there. He's, yeah. Randy, David Tepper is awful, by the way. So I hate that. David Tepper is literally the Dan Snyder of the NFL right now. So
Yeah. He's
Whoops.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough right now to be a Panthers fan. And then you go and I thought this is a whole nother conversation. I thought when they traded up last year, I was very excited because I thought for sure they were drafting CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
And yeah. So hopefully Bryce Young works out. He had a pretty bad supporting cast to work with.
Yeah, you need people around him. You need to keep a guy like that on his feet in his rookie year, and they do that.
I like Dave Canellis as a head coach, but I'm afraid that Tepper is going to be Tepper, and it's going to be a scapegoat situation. So hopefully not. But this is not an NFL show, so we'll get back to it. We'll get no, you're good. We will get back to that. I was just doing it more for the viewers. We're sorry, viewers. We will go back to ELF. Talking about the ELF here. Thunder and the Lions in this game. This doesn't appear close to me on paper at all, unfortunately. Randy, what's your thoughts on this one?
I saw Athletes Forum 313-704. That's right.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Detroit's area code's 313, Charlotte 704. So I appreciate that. Yeah, this is the 50 burger this week for me. I think Jacob Sullivan stays in the MVP conversation. Let's go. What's the over under on his touchdowns? 4. So give me total touchdowns for Jacob Sullivan at 5, and we'll go 52 to 6.
Wow,
that's that. I mean, unfortunately, I could see that. Yeah.
It's very likely. Very likely.
Bryce, what about you? Do you have another insane score here, or?
If anything, I'm going to be nicer to the Prague Lions. I'm going to go under on the touchdowns, and it's going to be 38-0.
I'm going to be nicer. They score 0 points.
Yeah. Touchdowns, and they'll score 38 points.
But they'll hold the other team to 38, so it's okay.
Yeah. But it's closer. It scores closer.
No, well, a little bit, yeah, I guess. If the rumors are true with Prague, they're going through a quarterback change heading into the week. I don't know. It just doesn't look to be pretty on paper at all. 44-3.
At what point do you begin to be genuinely worried for franchises like Prague or Farivar going forward when it comes to their survival in the league?
Well, so I don't want to speak too loudly on it or say it's a confirmed or whatever, but there is rumors that the Enthroners will be out of the league next year, and they're going to be going back to the Hungary Football League. The thing with the Lions is it's tough because last year was their first year, right? So it's like, what do you do? They had a turmoil-filled season. There was a bunch of ups and downs. They weren't sure that they were going to make it. They have an ownership group now that rebranded the team, brought in new uniforms, brought in new color scheme. They sound like they're a little more dedicated to it. It just is. Prague is just it's a baby, right? It's a baby franchise in a country that doesn't really play American football that's trying to get into it, right? This is what they're trying to do. So they if they can weather a few years of a storm like this and then be able to get the people in the right places, I think that they could bounce back. They've shown flashes. It's just you don't know
And it
what
is always
you
hard.
get.
It's always hard when you start a franchise in an area where there's no real history of American football there. And you see that occasionally even in Germany, in the Eastern German towns like Leipzig, like had some issues and eventually had to fold, where they were in the former communist part of Germany and they didn't have that American culture like seeped into everything. And the same way with the Czech Republic, they're behind the Iron Curtain for years and years and years, and they didn't have that Western Europe American culture where they were exposed to it. So it's hard for this new franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you would say, Randy, if you think that it would. I think you just give them as long as they're willing to operate and let them just play and stay in the league as long as possible. Really, personally.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised that they're not super competitive, considering I believe it was the Black Panthers that were in Prague for a while, and they were very competitive. They even moved to the Austrian league, at least when I was playing, because the Czech league they were blowing teams out of the water. So I thought that they'd kind of get all those best players and compete. It's been surprising that they haven't been able to do that. Now, I don't think Czech Republic is obviously known for their great football or anything like that,
Right.
especially if you follow any of the national leagues. So every year there's a national tournament where all the homegrown players will play each other. There's no Americans, there's no European imports. Czech Republic doesn't finish very well in any of those competitions. So I guess it's not a surprise, but man, I would love to see them stay in the league and watch and see how the ELF can develop a club like the Prague Lions. Because I think you get in there with some American or other German, European coaches that build up the culture, develop the younger guys. You then hit on a couple Americans, hit on a couple European players, and all of a sudden you're in every game. And they are in games. That's what's I feel like everyone at this point is rooting for them to just win a game. But you watch the Vienna Vikings game, and they were in that game for the first quarter or so. So I don't think it's a situation where you look at them and you go, "These guys just can't compete. Let's just kick them out of the league." And I think when you watch the Enthroners, it's kind of what it is, at least this season. And I know the Enthroners have beaten Prague Lions, but I don't know, man. I would love to see the Prague Lions stay in the league for at least a couple more years and just see what they can do.
Yeah, for sure. And um, I feel the same way a little bit about the Enthroners as well. Like I would like to see them stick around and stay. Unfortunately, it may just be a money thing for them. Who knows? But it just I like the league structure. I think the league structure can work. I think it can help some of these smaller teams be able to grow. And obviously, there's a growing interest in American football in Europe. So I think that there could be a legit opportunity and chance for a lot of these guys, these teams and players to be able to find a home in this league. It's just a matter of let them continue as long as they can before you can settle it out. So, Randy, Athletes Forum said this, speaking on new franchises, Team 18 being from Copenhagen, early stages. There was an article written, I guess it was a few weeks ago as well. It was mentioned. I don't know how true it is as far as it's concerned. I don't know if you know anything about it or not. Or did you read the same article that everybody else read, basically?
I did. I saw that. And all I can say is, playing there for 3 years and having a lot of close friends and teammates in Copenhagen. My wife and I are going back there in about a month just to visit friends. So I would love to see, for their sake, a Copenhagen team. And quite honestly, I think they could compete. When I was there in 2018, we played in the CEFL. and won the Northern European Championship and actually went to the final and played what was then the Swarco Raiders, who were probably the best team in Europe at the time, maybe if you exclude one or two German teams. But we were right there, and I think that Denmark and the Nordic countries have the talent to put together a very, very competitive team. So I would love to see them. I would love to see a Copenhagen team.
Yeah, for sure. I think we'd all like to see that for from that standpoint. All right. Last game on the slate, the Sea Devils against the Galaxy. This game's interesting to me. I don't know how you guys feel about this one. This one could end up being the game of the weekend, to be honest with you. I don't know how you feel about it, Randy, but what do you think?
I agree. This should be a great game. Hamburg. I mean, who are they? Frankfurt. Who are they? We don't know yet. And we look at kind of the history. These guys played week 1, and Frankfurt won that game. Give me Hamburg here in a low-scoring affair, 19 to 14, 19 to 17. Give me Hamburg 19 to 17.
19 to 17.
Yeah.
Okay, which would be technically an upset, I think, because I think Galaxy might be favored in this game. How about you, Bryce? How do you see this one?
When these two teams play, it's always fun because it's two old NFL Europe teams. It's almost like nostalgic in a way watching them play each other, and I really like the way that Hamburg's playing recently, and I see them winning 25-19.
25-19 as well. All right, or not as well, but a 19 score as well. This game's interesting to me. I think Javarian Smith has played very well for Hamburg. He's been another one of those guys that's been kind of a little bit of a pleasant surprise. It hasn't been great, but it hasn't been terrible kind of situation. He keeps them in games, and that's all you can really ask for. Luke Zaraka and Markel Castle, it doesn't feel like they've had the same magic as they did in the IFL, at least not yet. I mean, they've had some key plays that look really good, but overall, they're not really taking over games the way that I expected them to. However, I do think Frankfurt wins this one. I think this is going to be a close game. I agree with you that it's not going to be a very far off game by any means. I'm going to say 20-22. I think Frankfurt wins this game just over the Sea Devils as well. All right, that wraps up our predictions and previews for week 6? Yeah, week 6 already, man. It's crazy. I just can't believe it. Time flies.
Flying by.
Time flies when you have football on your TV screen all year round, right? Like, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
The ELF Godfather rivalry opening game, week 1, year 1. This is from Athletes Forum. In the last game, championship game year, 1 Frankfurt for the year for Kevin Kaya, difference maker, good showing, guys. Bryce, nice meeting. Helvetic plus 37.5. There's a lot of information in there.
Where are you getting these? I need to know.
Yeah, you have become Randy's dealer now, Athletes Forum, as well. So, all right, before we wrap this up, Randy, do you have anything you want to add to any of this conversation that we had tonight?
No, I really appreciate you having me on again, Michael. It's a lot of fun to talk ELF. And again, I know I say this all the time. Bryce, Michael, thank you guys both for how you shed light on European American football. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. Bryce, is there anything you want to add and plug anything that you want? I mean, Randy, you're starting to hit up social media a little bit. Do you want to plug any of your social media stuff? I mean, you're trying to get into it a little bit more, aren't you?
Man, I'm trying. It's tough. It's like a job. Follow me on Instagram. If you DM me on Instagram or anything. I'm not great on X. Like, I will respond. I promise. I'll get to it. I'm pretty good at that. I just need to post more. But yeah, follow me on Instagram, randy.schrader.qb. My MySpace page no longer exists, but yeah. Instagram's the best way. X, I'm not on that much. What else is there? TikTok. Follow me on. I don't have a TikTok. I can give you my email address if you want.
No, we don't need to go that far. I mean, that's fine. Bryce, what about you, man? You working on anything? You got anything coming out here soon, man, and whatnot?
Oh, guys, I'm sorry. I missed last week, and I was an hour late this week. I'm sorry. The time got mixed up. That's on me. It won't happen again. I promise. Pylon Productions. Follow on Instagram. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow on Twitter if you want to see me rant about random stuff. And I working on ELF highlights. I'm working on Indoor Football League highlights, Arena Football League highlights that'll be coming out pretty soon, and be on the lookout for it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And he does great work with highlights and stuff as well. He is also responsible for the awesome opening video that we have here on the Summer Showcase as well. I'm Michael Washington across all social media platforms. My X is at MW77. 77 is spelled out for those people out there. The reason I'm giving you my X handle specifically is because there is a slew of ELF content followers on my page. If you want to know more, they're awesome. Jamal Clay comes to mind. He is fantastic. He's also a former Black Bear as well. Obviously, the around the ELF, he does a fantastic job on X as well, getting out news as well. There's various slew of other guys that I'm missing, but shout out to all of them as well. I want to give a shout out to Shady Sports Network for once again giving us a platform to cover this. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the little dingy to make sure you get the notifications. We're here every Tuesday. Also hit up Current and hit our code up. Get yourself a nice little banking app there with Current, and enjoy the benefits of that service as well. I'm Michael Washington. He's Randy Schrader, and for Bryce Lagow, that's going to do it till next week, 8:15 Eastern time on Tuesdays. Bryce, have a good night and see you next week. Oh, and hit up Athletes Forum as well. Go ahead and give him a follow as well, because he's fantastic with the comments. Have a good night.